My son, who has type 1 diabetes, called me from home sobbing uncontrollably. My wife told me she had removed his insulin pump because he hadn't completed his chores. She said he could have it back once he finished dinner. I told him, "Don't move, buddy. I'm coming." Then I immediately dialed 911 and reported child endangerment and sped home with officers right behind me. When she tried to explain to the police that it was simply discipline, they didn't buy it. I'm 34, a software engineer. My son Tyler is 9. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 6. For 3 full years we've been learning the ropes, nighttime finger sticks, carb counting every single meal, double-checking that his pump is delivering properly and his CGM is accurate. 3 years of living with the knowledge that one serious mistake could take his life. My wife Angela is 32. We've been married 11 years. She wasn't always this way. When we first got married, she was gentle, patient, wonderful with Tyler as a baby. The shift happened so gradually I didn't recognize it until it was far too late. It began after the diagnosis. She started getting irritated about middle-of-the-night checks, saying I was coddling him, that he needed to toughen up and manage it himself. He was 6. I told her a 6-year-old can't be expected to handle that alone. She accused me of being overprotective. We'd fight, then she'd apologize, and things would calm down for a while. Then she began weaponizing his condition. If his room was messy, no dessert, that part was still within normal parenting. But it grew worse. She'd make him wait for fast-acting carbs when his sugar was crashing, delaying treatment for half an hour because he'd talked back. I'd discover it later and explode. She'd insist she was teaching natural consequences, that actions needed to have results. I told her you do not gamble with a chronic illness to make a point. She'd break down, say parenting a child with medical needs was exhausting, that I never appreciated her sacrifices. I'd feel guilty and back off, convincing myself she was just stressed and would eventually get IT. It always happened again. 2 months ago, Tyler came to me quietly and whispered that Mom had promised he could have his pump back if he scored an A on his math test. I asked what he meant by have it back. He said she had taken it off that morning because he hadn't made his bed, and told him he could wear it to school only if he promised to behave. Something inside me snapped. I marched to the kitchen and demanded to know what she was thinking. She said he had to learn responsibility. I told her he's 9 and has a disease that can kill him without insulin in a matter of hours. She called me dramatic, said the school nurse had backup insulin, that a few hours without the pump was fine, and that I constantly undermined her authority. I told her if she ever touched his medical equipment again, I was gone. She stared at me and asked if I'd really destroy our family over this. I said I would do whatever it took to keep Tyler alive. She turned and walked away without another word. I genuinely thought the message had finally gotten through. I was wrong. Yesterday I was at work preparing for a major client presentation. My phone was on silent. The meeting ran long, 2 full hours. When I stepped out, I saw 7 missed calls from Tyler's phone. My heart stopped. I called back instantly. He could barely speak through the tears. "Daddy, please come home. I can't find my pump. Mom took it. She won't give it back. My sugar keeps going up. The alarm won't stop." I asked where Mom was. He said she was home but ignoring him, saying he had to wait until after dinner. "Dad, I don't feel good." I asked to speak to her. He must have handed her the phone because suddenly she was on the line, calm as anything. She explained that Tyler hadn't put his backpack away or lined up his shoes after school, so she confiscated the pump. He could have it back after he ate dinner and cleaned properly. It was 4 p.m. Dinner wasn't until 6 o'clock. "He'll be perfectly fine," she said. I told her to put it back on him immediately. She refused, said I let him get away with murder and he needed real structure. I told her he has type 1 diabetes. She snapped that obviously she knew that and accused me of treating her like she was stupid. He is not going to die in 2 hours. Stop blowing this out of proportion. I hung up that I called 911 and told the dispatcher my wife had removed our type 1 diabetic son's insulin pump as punishment and was refusing to return it while his blood sugar climbed. The operator asked if weapons were involved. No, just that this was a life-threatening medical situation. She dispatched police and an ambulance and asked me to stay on the line. I told her I couldn't. I was 20 minutes away and hung up that I phoned Tyler back. Buddy, Daddy's coming as fast as I can. Police and paramedics are coming too. You're going to be okay. He was terrified, voice trembling, telling me he felt shaky and weird. I kept him talking the entire drive. About school, his friends, the new game he wanted. Anything to keep him awake and oriented. His words started slurring. I pushed the car harder. I screeched into the driveway the same moment 2 patrol cars and the ambulance arrived. I bolted inside. Tyler was curled on the couch, ghostly pale, drenched in sweat, trembling badly. His CGM read 310 and still rising. Without the pump, he had no way to get insulin. I scooped him up as the paramedics rushed in. They asked where his pump was. Angela stood in the kitchen doorway looking stunned. What is all this? Why are the police here? I told her she had withheld life-saving medical equipment from our child. That's endangerment. She insisted she was simply teaching a lesson and that I had completely overreacted. An officer asked her directly whether she had removed the child's insulin pump. She admitted she had, but said it would only be a couple of hours total and he wasn't in real danger. The officer asked her to produce the device. She hesitated, called the whole thing ridiculous, insisted she was his mother. The officer repeated firmly, "Ma'am, get the insulin pump now." She retrieved it from her purse and handed it over. The paramedic clipped it back onto Tyler immediately, asked him questions, confirmed it had been off since about 3:30 because he hadn't put his backpack away. He looked at Angela and told her straight, withholding insulin from a type 1 child can cause diabetic ketoacidosis, a life-threatening emergency. She shrugged and said, "But he didn't go into DKA. He's fine. Everyone is making a mountain out of a molehill." The officer asked me if I wished to press charges. I looked at my shaking, terrified little boy and said yes, without hesitation. Angela went sheet white. "You're actually having me arrested? For parenting?" I told her withholding life-saving medication isn't parenting. It's abuse. She burst into tears, told the officers I was vindictive, that we'd been having marital problems, that I'd been looking for any excuse to end the marriage. The officer told her this wasn't about the marriage. It was about child safety, and she was under arrest. They cuffed her and read her rights while she screamed at me that Tyler needed his mother. I told her Tyler needed someone who wouldn't risk his life to win an argument about chores. The paramedics transported Tyler to the ER for observation. His numbers were high but not yet critical. They caught it just in time. The ER doctor said another hour and the outcome could have been catastrophic. She documented everything and filed a mandatory report. CPS arrived that evening. The investigator, Sarah, spoke gently with Tyler first. He poured out everything. The previous times his pump had been taken, the delayed snacks, being told he was dramatic when he felt sick. She took meticulous notes, then spoke with me privately. She asked why I hadn't reported sooner. I admitted I kept hoping Angela would change, that I didn't want to destroy the family. Sarah said, "You didn't destroy your family. Your wife did the moment she decided a medical condition was a suitable punishment." She explained Tyler could not return home while Angela was there. I told her Angela was in jail and Tyler would stay with me no matter what. She scheduled home visits and safety checks. Angela made bail that night, paid by her sister. She blew up my phone. 47 calls. Dozens of voicemails alternating between sobbing apologies and raging accusations that I had ruined everything and CPS would take Tyler away because of me. I saved every single one and forwarded them to the attorney I hired the next morning. I filed for divorce and emergency sole custody. The hearing was set for the following week. My lawyer said the case was airtight. No reasonable judge would grant unsupervised contact after this. For that entire week, Tyler and I lived in a hotel. He didn't want to go back to the house. Everything reminded him of being scared and of thinking he might die over shoes on the floor. I held him every night while he cried and promised him this would never happen again. The custody hearing was brutal. Angela and her attorney painted me as the villain who alienated her from her son, claiming she'd made one understandable parenting mistake and I was using it to punish her. My attorney played the voicemails, the 911 recording of my panicked voice, Tyler's terrified call to me, testimony from the responding paramedic, the ER doctor, and the CPS investigator. The paramedic described Tyler's symptoms on arrival: pale, sweating, confused, glucose over 300 and climbing, and stated unequivocally that another hour without insulin would have pushed him into diabetic ketoacidosis, which in children can lead to coma and death. The judge asked Angela point-blank why she believed it was acceptable to withhold insulin. She repeated that she only wanted him to learn responsibility and didn't think 2 hours would hurt. The judge told her that was the core problem. She didn't think about the risk to her child's life. She only thought about being obeyed. The judge called her actions deliberate abuse, not a mistake, and awarded me full legal and physical custody. Angela received 1 hour of supervised visitation per week, at her expense, pending the criminal case. Any violation would mean permanent loss of contact. Angela sobbed and begged. The judge told her she had done this to herself. We went home that day. I boxed all her belongings. Her sister collected them. A restraining order kept Angela 500 feet from the property. She violated it twice. Police responded both times. The criminal trial lasted 3 months. Angela pleaded not guilty, insisting she was only disciplining her child. The prosecution brought pediatric endocrinologists who explained in horrifying detail what happens without insulin: skyrocketing blood sugar, ketosis, acidosis, organ failure, coma, death, and how quickly that can unfold in a 9-year-old. One expert calculated that based on Tyler's records, he had roughly 2 more hours before irreversible DKA would have set in. Angela's plan would have kept the pump off for closer to 3 hours. He told the jury that if a parent still refused treatment at that stage, the child would not survive. The jury deliberated less than 2 hours and returned a guilty verdict for child endangerment. She received 2 years probation, mandatory parenting classes, and permanent loss of custody. 6 months later, she violated probation by attempting to pick Tyler up from school. She spent 90 days in jail. She was released 8 months ago. Tyler and I have a calm, predictable routine now. I check his sites and devices religiously. Emergency glucose is stashed everywhere. He knows with 100% certainty that no one will ever remove his pump or withhold treatment as punishment. He sees his therapist twice a week and is slowly healing from the trauma of believing his own mother might let him die over a messy backpack. Angela still sends letters. Tyler isn't ready to read them. I'm not sure he ever will be. That's his decision. People sometimes ask how I didn't see the red flags sooner. The truth is the escalation was slow. Tiny boundary nudges that grew into dangerous boundary violations. I kept thinking I could fix her, that love and patience and reasoning would be enough. I was wrong. I should have acted the first time she delayed a low treatment. I should have documented and left then. Instead, I tried to hold the family together and nearly lost my son. Tyler asked me recently why Mom cared more about shoes being put away than about whether he lived or died. I didn't have a perfect answer. I told him some people get so fixated on control that they lose sight of what actually matters. He thought about it and said, "That's really stupid." "Yeah, buddy. It really is. His A1C is the best it's ever been. His endocrinologist says whatever we're doing at home is working perfectly." I told her we just follow the medical plan and never treat his illness like a bargaining chip. She said you'd be amazed how many families don't. I've started dating again. Nothing serious. A kind teacher from Tyler's school. When she noticed his pump one day and asked about it, I explained type 1. She listened, then said quietly, "It must take a lot of vigilance." I told her it's not hard when keeping your child alive is more important than winning a power struggle. She said that should be the bare minimum for any parent. You would think. Angela's probation ends in about 10 months. She'll almost certainly petition for visitation again. My attorney is confident no judge will grant it without years of documented therapy and 0 incidents. And her criminal record plus probation violation make that nearly impossible. Tyler says he never wants to see her. I told him that is completely his choice and I will support whatever he needs. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder if calling 911 that day was an overreaction. Then I hear Tyler's small, frightened voice in my head begging me to come home, begging his mother for the pump she refused to return. And I know without a shred of doubt I did exactly the right thing. I would do it again in a heartbeat. My son's life is not leverage. His health is not a consequence. His medical equipment is not a toy to be taken away. Those are non-negotiable truths. The fact that I had to involve police and have my own wife arrested to enforce them is insane, but I will never regret it. Tyler is alive. He is safe. He wakes up every morning knowing the person caring for him will always put his life first. Before chores, before rules, before pride, before everything. That is what matters. That will always be what matters.